National debt officially reaching $33.9 trillion, according to the Treasury Department. It's being propelled by the increased government spending and also weaker than expected tax revenues coming in. Here's the kicker, and I want to ask Russ Vought, the former White House Office of Management and Budget Director, about this. At this level, each citizen in the U.S. would have to pay $100,000 to make the federal debt zero. Russ, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's astronomical when you put it in perspective of what citizens would be required to pay, and in terms of taxpayers, it would be even higher. It's just one more data point that the $34 trillion, we'll be at $34 trillion early in January, most likely. That is totally unsustainable. We're headed towards a fiscal crisis if we don't take an opportunity to be able to cut spending and get a handle on this fiscal side of the house that has just been so unsustainable.
Yeah, what about if a family ran its finances like the federal government?
Well, they would be so unprepared for the kind of recklessness that you see by our lawmakers and our policymakers, right? So families, they do everything they can, and of course some of them rely on the credit card too much. But what happens? If they are relying on the credit card too much, they tear it up, and they have to go and make changes to live within their means. But we have a federal government that doesn't operate on any basis of those sound principles, and they just get on and on and on in more debt. And we gave Joe Biden, I say that the House Republicans gave Joe Biden an endless debt ceiling throughout the entirety of his administration. And so there are limited levers that we've got at our disposal, and it's important for them to use it later this month.
Yeah, so the federal deficit is up 13% from the same month last year, according to the Treasury Department, and that signals even more government spending. The CBO projects that the deficit will be closer to $1.6 trillion next year, $1.7 trillion in 2025, going the wrong way to be able to pay down the federal debt, right?
Well, let me give you another data point. When we left office in the Trump administration, we had interest costs too high of about $300 billion, $350 billion. They're about $700 billion now per year, but we're headed potentially at the end of next year at $1 trillion in interest payments. Think about that. That's higher than what we spend on defense, and it would approach some of the highest costs of the federal government has on an annual basis, and that's just the debt. So you're taking on debt to be able to pay for the new spending that you're doing, and it's just completely unsustainable.
How much is debt a drag on the economy?
Well, it is. I mean, the cost of financing debt from the Treasury, they have to pay more. That's going to make those Treasury bills more attractive. And as a result, that's going to be shifting financing away from more productive parts of the economy, where you have businesses that want to be able to find loans and capital, and it's going to have an impact throughout the economy, but it's also, more importantly, going to lead to a financial crisis, and we just can't ever predict when these things happen. They happen at a point often when you least expect it, and so these storm clouds have to be understood and recognized and dealt with, and that's why it's so important for the policymakers that actually care, the House Republicans, to do something about it in January when they have an opportunity. We have so much of the federal government is on autopilot.
Yeah, Russ,
a third of it's not on autopilot, and